Now that we've learned about chemical reactions and thermodynamics, this next video tells you how they relate to the two reactions we're going to focus on in cells, which are cellular respiration and photosynthesis.
Living things cannot exist without a source of energy to power their life processes. And with just a few small exceptions, all of that energy is created by powerful thermonuclear reactions in the sun. The heat and light produced by the sun travels through space and reaches the Earth. Through a process called photosynthesis, the energy of sunlight is chemically captured and stored by plants and plant-like organisms. Then, through another process called cellular respiration, the stored energy is released inside living cells and used in countless different ways. Now let us look at the two basic ingredients of the universe, matter and energy, and learn how they flow through the living world. The first ingredient, matter, is defined as anything that has mass or weight and that occupies space. This means that everything seen here, the water, the rocks, the grass, and even the air, are matter, because each of these things has weight and takes up space. These examples show that matter can exist in any one of three very different states: liquid, solid, or gas. At normal temperatures and atmospheric pressures, water is a liquid that can flow and be poured. At lower temperatures, liquid water becomes the hard, brittle solid we call ice, while at higher temperatures it turns into steam, a floating gas of no particular shape. In contrast to matter, the second basic ingredient of the universe, energy, has no weight and doesn't occupy space. Scientists define energy as the ability to do work or cause change. This means that it is energy that makes matter do things. There are several different kinds of energy. For example, there is the mechanical energy of falling water, and the heat energy and light energy of a burning fire, while living things use chemical energy for everything from making their hearts beat, to breathing, to jumping. And it is amazing to think that nearly all of the chemical energy used by living things was at one time sunlight. Chemical energy is stored in the chemical bonds that hold much of matter together. For example, strong chemical bonds hold the matter of water together. The chemical formula of water, H2O, shows that it contains two elements of matter. One is the element hydrogen, represented by the letter H. The second is the element oxygen, represented by the letter O. The formula also shows that there is twice as much hydrogen in water as oxygen. Elements are pure types of matter that cannot be chemically separated into different substances. 92 elements of matter can be found in nature. Familiar examples of elements include silver, copper, helium, and gold. The smallest particle of an element is an atom, and all atoms are made from the same three subatomic particles: protons, neutrons, and the electrons, which are used in chemical bonding. Different elements possess different numbers of subatomic particles, and as a result, each element has different properties. When the atoms of two or more elements are chemically bonded together, chemical compounds are formed. For example, one atom of oxygen bonded to two atoms of hydrogen is the chemical compound called water. It is important to note that chemical compounds have very different characteristics from those of the elements they contain. For example, at ordinary temperatures and pressures, water is a liquid. Yet under the same conditions, both the hydrogen and oxygen from which it is formed are gases. Likewise, you would never suspect that the colorless gas inside soda bubbles contains carbon, an element that normally exists as a black solid. Soda bubble gas is a chemical compound called carbon dioxide and is represented by the chemical formula CO2. This formula shows that carbon dioxide contains one atom of carbon bonded to two atoms of oxygen. On Earth, atoms are almost always found attached to other atoms, forming what scientists call molecules. Molecules are combinations of atoms of one or more elements of matter joined together by strong chemical bonds. The DNA molecules found in living things are the most complicated molecules and can contain millions of atoms. But there are many common molecules that have just a few atoms. For example, just two atoms of hydrogen bonded together makes a molecule of hydrogen gas, which is represented by the formula H2. Likewise, most of the oxygen in the atmosphere exists as simple molecules made from only two oxygen atoms that are chemically bonded together and that are represented by the formula O2. Molecules are created and destroyed during what are called chemical reactions, which are changes of matter in which chemical bonds are broken, rearranged, and then reformed. Chemical reactions are occurring around us all the time. In fact, each second, literally millions of chemical reactions are occurring inside of every living thing. In order to show what happens during chemical reactions, scientists write out equations like this one, which represents the formation of water from hydrogen and oxygen. The reactants, two molecules of hydrogen gas plus one molecule of oxygen gas, are on the left side of the arrow. On the right side of the arrow are the products of the chemical reaction. In this reaction, two molecules of water are formed, plus energy is released. Of all the chemical reactions in the living world, perhaps none is as important as photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a Greek word that means to make from light, and by looking at its equation, we will learn why it is given this name. During photosynthesis, carbon dioxide plus water are chemically combined, using energy from sunlight to make the sugar called glucose, a chemical compound which ends up storing the sun's energy in its chemical bonds. The equation also shows another important fact. Photosynthesis makes oxygen for organisms to use. But it is important to point out that you won't get glucose and oxygen just by mixing carbon dioxide and water together in the sunlight. All you will get is warm carbonated water. This is because photosynthesis only takes place in plants and plant-like organisms, those that possess the amazing light-trapping molecule called chlorophyll. In fact, without chlorophyll, which gives plants their greenish color, there can be no photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is extremely important because it is just about the only way that living things obtain both energy and oxygen. In fact, without photosynthesis, there would be no oxygen at all in our atmosphere. Most species of living things, including all animals, are unable to carry out photosynthesis to make their own food. This means they must eat in order to obtain the energy they need. Living things feed on one another. As a result, in the living world, energy and matter are passed along through what are called food chains of organisms. The first link in any food chain are the food producers. They are photosynthetic organisms like plants. These organisms are able to produce food in the form of energy-rich glucose from non-living matter. The second link in a food chain are the primary consumers. They eat plants or other photosynthetic organisms. In this way, both energy and matter begin to move up the food chain. Next are the secondary consumers. They eat the primary consumers. Oftentimes birds, like these, are secondary consumers because they eat insects and other organisms that live on a diet of plants. Then come the tertiary consumers, who eat the secondary consumers. Tertiary consumers are often large meat-eating animals like this alligator. The final link in a food chain are the decomposers. They are organisms such as fungi and bacteria like these. Decomposers cause decay. They break down dead materials and turn them into nutrients for the food producers. As we have learned, food producers, such as the green-colored algae seen here, make oxygen as well as glucose. Oxygen is extremely important to living things, but did you ever wonder why? The reason is that nearly all organisms, even ocean dwellers like these, must have oxygen to break down the chemical bonds of glucose to release its stored energy. The process by which this happens is called cellular respiration, and its chemical reaction is the exact opposite of the reaction for photosynthesis, because the products of photosynthesis are the reactants of cellular respiration. The equation shows that when glucose reacts with oxygen, the sugar is broken down into carbon dioxide and water, and energy is released. Inside of living cells, energy released from glucose ends up being transferred to another chemical compound called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. And it is ATP that is actually used whenever a cell needs immediate energy to power a life process. The flow of matter and energy in the living world is beautifully balanced. Plants and plant-like organisms make oxygen and energy-rich food using just sunlight and the simple byproducts of cellular respiration, carbon dioxide and water. And through cellular respiration, the oxygen and sugar made by photosynthesis ends up being used by all the different organisms in the food chain. It is thanks to these two amazing and complementary processes that life has been able to thrive on Earth.